There's one code to live by in the Naruto world, it's never duck a fade. That is to say that even when you are dramatically outmatched, never run from a fight. And therefore, over the course of Naruto, we see a lot of ninja, specifically those from Konoha, at least most of the time, making sure even if they know they're about to die in the battle they're about to wage, that they never show their enemy their backs. But in all of Naruto, what are the greatest never duck a fade moments? The most potentially lopsided battles that people still entered into knowing damn well that they didn't stand a chance. The battles that required confidence at maybe a delusional level to be entered in the first place. Well, today that's a question I want to answer, because today I want to go over the top 10 never duck a fade moments in Naruto. But before we do any of that, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you're looking for one additional NC Hammer 23 video every single week, guys, you can go ahead and find my Naruto reaction series using the fourth wall link in my description below. The puppy of the day is the Muffin Man. He's my favorite, he's the dumbest one we got, and therefore he's the best.
Oh, they don't like their names.
Well, I do, and I don't care about your opinion. I do actually care about your opinion, but the names aren't changing. But before we get into all that, we gotta talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, Fume. Have you ever caught yourself reaching for a bad habit without even realizing you were doing it? Maybe it's because you were stressed or bored, or maybe because you wanted to fit in. Well, that's where Fume comes into play. See, Fume understands that it's not always about quitting, but sometimes about replacing. And that's where Fume comes into play, because Fume offers you a simple and enjoyable way to break away from bad habits, while still having something satisfying to reach for. See, Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that delivers great taste without any harmful chemicals. Instead of inhaling vapor, you simply inhale air, mixed with natural, non-toxic flavors that combine on the way in and satisfy that itch. And whether you're looking to keep your hands busy or your mouth busy, Fume's premium wood design, fixed with its fidget aspects, make it a fantastic fidget toy. This right here is my personal favorite. It feels premium in your hand. It's easy to take anywhere, and even easier to personalize. See, Fume offers a litany of different flavors, spearmint being my personal favorite. It's refreshing, it keeps me sharp, and I genuinely think it makes my breath smell better. But if you're not into minty flavors, there's literally an option for everyone. So what are you waiting for? Over 500,000 people have already chosen Fume in their journey to better choices. And if you're ready to try it, now is the time. For a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using code NCHammer, you'll get a free Fume Topper, an awesome accessory to level up your Fume experience. So click the link in my description below, or go to tryfume.com/NCHammer, or scan the QR code on screen right now to get yours today. Anyways, let's get into this list. So I'm not gonna lie to you, there's gonna be some repeat names on this list, because if we're being entirely real with ourselves, there's some characters in Naruto who duck fades a whole lot less than others. Some characters make tactical retreats, some characters are too powerful to be put in situations where they would be ducking a fade because they're clear favorites heading into the fight, and some characters are just never really involved in fights important enough to make their way onto this list. And therefore you're gonna see a couple of characters make their way onto this list a couple of times. And one of those characters you're gonna see a bunch is a character who's taking up a number 10 spot, because at number 10 we have Kakashi versus Orochimaru. See, while this technically isn't a fight, which is why it's at our number 10 spot, during the Chunin exams in part 1 of Naruto, we see Orochimaru pull up on Sasuke and Kakashi, while Kakashi is sealing away Sasuke's cursed mark. Now at this moment in time, Kakashi is barely stronger than Zabuza. And while Zabuza is one of the stronger members of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, the Demon of the Mist who killed 100 other students to graduate from the Shinobi Academy in the Blood Mist Village, a notorious rogue ninja responsible for hundreds if not thousands of deaths, and an attempted coup in the Hidden Mist which unfortunately did not work, Zabuza is nowhere, and I mean nowhere, near the strength of Orochimaru. And yet, when Orochimaru pulls up on Kakashi and Sasuke, talking about how he wants Kakashi's left eye, and how he needs Sasuke's body to fully understand the power of the Uchiha, Kakashi, even though he would 100% be justified in taking Sasuke and running away, or even just running away himself, considering not only the difference in power between Orochimaru and Kakashi at this moment, but also Orochimaru and Kakashi's history, being that Kakashi was the last line of defense to try and take down Orochimaru when Orochimaru was trying trying to flee the village, and at that moment in time, Kakashi got the spit knocked out of his mouth. But even with all of that considered, and knowing damn well if he entered into combat with Orochimaru, he would probably die, Kakashi stood between Sasuke and Orochimaru and told Orochimaru, "You may be one of the legendary Sannin, but I can give up my life to take yours." And it's at that moment that he activates his Raikage. Now, fortunately, this is enough of a threat to Orochimaru that Orochimaru decides he's not taking Sasuke today. However, it was never Orochimaru's plan to take Sasuke right then and there, and walks away while saying, "Hey, listen, that seal you just placed in the curse mark is not going to do anything, all right? Sasuke is an avenger. He's going to come to me one day of his own volition." But while Orochimaru is walking away, he kind of scoffs at Kakashi, saying, "Did you really think you would be able to kill me?" And it's in this moment that Kakashi literally sees his own death and realizes how absolutely ludicrous it was to say that he would be able to take out Orochimaru even at the cost of his own life. And thus Kakashi immediately gets shook. And therefore, on account of the fact that this isn't really a fight, and because Kakashi realized that he was being insane, I can't put this moment that much higher, but Kakashi did lock in for a fight against Orochimaru. A fight that he would have died almost instantly in. And if that's not ducking a fade, then I don't really know what is. Next up on our list at number 9, we have one of the most historic non-ducking of fades in all of Naruto's history. And if we're being real with ourselves, if this fight was animated, it would be much higher on the list. Because coming up at number 9, we have Tobirama versus Ginkaku, and 20 other S-ranked ninja. See, we know that Team Tobirama was deep in the Land of Lightning during the First Great Shinobi World War, doing some reconnaissance against their enemy at that moment, the Hidden Cloud. And we know that while trying to broker a peace treaty, that Tobirama, in a conversation with the second Raikage, was actually attacked by Ginkaku and Ginkaku and almost killed. And thus, when Tobirama heard that Ginkaku and Ginkaku had not only caught on to their location, but were also tracking them out of the Hidden Clouds territory, nobody on Team Tobirama, who at that moment included people like Shisui's grandfather, who was said to be greater at genjutsu than Shisui, Danzo, and Hiruzen, understood better the strength of Ginkaku and Ginkaku than Tobirama. And thus Tobirama understood that his team would not be able to make it back to the Land of Fire before Ginkaku and Ginkaku caught up to them. And therefore, somebody from Team Tobirama, a team comprised of high-ranking ninja and the second current Hokage, needed to elect themselves to hold back Ginkaku and Ginkaku. Now, obviously, we know in this moment, Hiruzen steps up. However, Tobirama never intended for anybody besides himself to engage in this battle, fully understanding that whoever stepped up offering to fight against Ginkaku and Ginkaku, unless maybe it was Shisui's grandfather, was going to be elected as the third Hokage to take over for Tobirama, who knew in this battle he would die. And yet Tobirama understood that even though engaging in this combat against Ginkaku and Ginkaku would kill him, that it was necessary to make sure that the rest of these young promising ninja made it back the Land of Fire. Now, like I said, this is one of the most impressive hold your ground moments in all of Naruto. Tobirama went off to fight against 2 pseudo-Jinchuriki of Kurama, who are descendants of Hagoromo, and 20 S-ranked ninja. There are very, and I mean very few people in the Naruto universe who would be able to win that fight, let alone maintain that fight for a long enough amount of time that would allow for the people on your team to get back to a safe territory. And yet, Tobirama was able to accomplish that. And thus, for accomplishing exactly what he was trying to accomplish and engaging in a battle with some of the worst odds that we've ever seen in the entirety of Naruto's universe, I have to give Tobirama the number 9 spot, which is kind of low, but once again, the fight's not animated. But let's move directly on to our number 8 spot, which is gonna come with a familiar name here, because coming up at number 8, we have Kakashi versus Itachi. See, Kakashi kind of has a thing for taking on opponents that are drastically more powerful than him at the moment he takes them on. First, it's Orochimaru, and then just a couple of episodes later, it's Itachi. See, well, technically, Kakashi is backed up in this fight by Kurenai and Asuma and Might Guy. The beginning of this fight, even before Kakashi starts fighting against Itachi, is Kakashi poising himself to battle against Kisame. However, because Itachi tells Kisame that if he takes on Kakashi in this battle, it will not be without cost, implying that Kakashi is somewhat equal in strength to Kisame at this moment, Itachi then elects to take on Kakashi himself. And here's the thing, Kakashi served on the Anbu with Itachi when he was 13 years old. And when Itachi was 13 years years old, Kakashi understood that he was already more powerful than him, mostly on account of the fact that while the two of them were on a mission protecting the daimyo, Obito flew in an assassination attempt against the daimyo, and it was Itachi who had to battle back Obito because Kakashi was unable to do it. And yet years later, when Kakashi fully understand that Itachi was even more powerful than he was then, it was Kakashi who stepped up to battle against Itachi, battling his Sharingan against Itachi's. And while that fight does not pan out well for him, as he gets trapped in a Tsukiyomi that has him being stabbed for 72 hours straight, which puts him in a coma that he's in for weeks, Kakashi still put himself in front of the strongest opponent on the battlefield and tried to essentially 1v1 him. As Might Guy was battling against Kisame, and Asuma and Kurenai, I mean, let's be real, they weren't helping. So while a lot of Kakashi's battles do not pan out well for Kakashi, you can't say he ever tries to run from a battle. However, even though Kakashi never tries to run from a battle, he's never gotten a name like the Perfect Shield. No, that name belongs to a person taking up our number 7 spot, because at number 7 we have the third Raikage, A versus 20,000 shinobi. Or was it 10,000 shinobi? It's thousands of shinobi. Anyways, it was told to us that during the Third Great Shinobi World War, while retreating from battle, presumably against the Hidden Stone, but it's never necessarily confirmed, that the third Raikage, in order to cover the retreat of all of his Hidden Cloud shinobi, hung back and battled against their pursuers, a team of at least 10,000 plus foreign shinobi who were pressuring the retreating Hidden Cloud shinobi. And thus, over the course of 3 days, 72 full hours, the third Raikage battled it out against tens of thousands of shinobi in order to cover his shinobi's retreat. And while we have no idea how many shinobi the third Raikage was able to cut down during this battle, through a combination of his lightning cloak and his lightning spear, he was able to slash down enemy opponents while also being invulnerable to their attacks with his ridiculously powerful Nin Taijutsu, a feat that earned him the moniker of the Perfect Shield, as he was able to shield his shinobi in their retreat. Honestly, you could also put the third Raikage back on this list for 1v1ing Gyuki when Blue Bee, the Jinchuriki of Gyuki before Killer Bee, lost control of Gyuki and was rampaging inside of the Hidden Cloud. And the reason that Gyuki now only has one horn, or at least one complete horn, is because the third Raikage in their 1v1 battle, which ended in a tie, mind you, was able to cut off Gyuki's horn. So the third Raikage, even though he is an absolute side character in the story, has some of the greatest hold your ground moments against perilous odds we've ever seen. But he never had to fight against a prime Itachi and a dual EMS Sasuke. Now, the only person who ever had to do that was Kabuto. See, during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, it is Kabuto who's responsible for bringing back the majority of the heavy hitters using Edo Tensei. Whether it's the Akatsuki, all of the dead Jinchuriki, or Madara himself, Kabuto is responsible for bringing them all back, with the Edo Tensei he perfected by learning from Orochimaru. And therefore, seemingly, it's up to Itachi, who was able to break himself out of the Edo Tensei brain control using Kodo Matsukame, and Sasuke to try to get Kabuto to release his Edo Tensei. And therefore, they're eventually able to track down Kabuto's location. And here's the thing. There is literally no benefit for Kabuto whatsoever to engage in combat against Itachi and Sasuke. Yes, he could hypothetically win, but his win state in this battle is sealing Itachi and killing EMS Sasuke. A win state 99.99999% of people in Naruto would not be able to achieve. Now, the win state for Itachi and Sasuke is also a bit perilous on account of the fact that they can't kill Kabuto, but Kabuto could not be blamed if he decided to run from this fight. Not only because running from this fight allows for him to continue using Edo Tensei and pursuing his goals, but also because this is an almost impossible to win fight for literally anyone. And yet Kabuto is able to put up a very good fight against an Itachi with infinitely refilling chakra and no chakra disease, in an almost, at least for Naruto, peak power Sasuke. This is Kitty Softpaws. However, Kabuto didn't go out looking for a fight against Sasuke or Itachi. However, our next entry at number 5 absolutely did go out looking for a fight that, let's be real, they were outmatched. Because at number 5 on this list, we have Sasuke versus the 5 Kage. Now, as to whether or not you want to consider this not ducking a fade, that's kind of up to you. Because technically, how can you duck a fade that you went out looking for? But I'm gonna count it, and it's gonna be one of the rare moments that I try to give any credit to Sasuke. See, this fight for Sasuke is absolutely insane. See, not only does it start with Sasuke fighting against a legion of samurai who are all pretty powerful in their own rights, but it also then devolves into Taka battling against the 4th Raikage, who is incredibly powerful, Darui, who is the 5th Raikage, and C, who, I don't know, he can make himself really bright. And after battling against the 4th Raikage relatively competently, Finally, I mean, he literally has to cut off his own hand when he lariat chops Sasuke's Amaterasu-covered Susanoo ribcage. Sasuke then battles against the Sand siblings, Gaara, Temari, Kankuro, and wow, this is kind of a repeat of their battle in the Chunin exams. At this moment, Gaara's the Kaze Kage, and probably one of the stronger Kages amongst all of the 5 Kages. But after surviving a battle against the Sand siblings and Darui and the 4th Raikage all simultaneously, Sasuke's tirade continues as he tries to find Danzo, who's being protected by Tsurune Aburame, one of the strongest Aburames of all time, and he's in the same room as Inoki, one of the strongest Tsuchi Kages of all time, probably the strongest Tsuchi Kage of all time. On top of this, Mei, the 5th Mizukage, is there, who's able to use 2 separate Kekkei Genkai, and while Kakashi doesn't do well in combat in this situation, as he literally has to be saved by Obito, otherwise he would have been turned to dust by Inoki, he was trying to fight 3 Kage and their protectors, who are some of the strongest people in the village, a couple of which who went on to become Kage themselves, like Chojuro. During this battle of Sasuke versus the 5 Kages, he probably fights close to between 8 to 10 Kage level threats. I mean, he literally fights against 5 Kage, and then 2 future Kage in Chojuro and Darui, and I think he might even fight against Korotsuchi, who is also a future Kage. And while he does technically run from this fight, that's not up to him, it's up to Obito. So I will give Sasuke some credit here. While he was going to die in this fight, he didn't run. And that, to me, is not ducking a fade. But that's enough credit to Sasuke. Let's get back to the people that I want to talk about, which is why at number 4, we're going to talk about somebody who's already been on this list 2 times, Kakashi versus Pain. This is Neutron Jr. He has piercing blue eyes, and there's not a singular thought behind them. See, in the long list of Kakashi entering into fights that he wasn't qualified for, this is probably the one that stands out the most. See, when we say Kakashi versus Pain here, we're not even talking about Kakashi versus all of the paths of Pain. We're just talking about Kakashi versus the Deva and Asura paths. And while the Deva path represents more than 50% of Pain's power, at least that's what I would say, see, while this fight isn't technically a 1v1, as Kakashi is assisted by Choji and Chojuro and a couple of other no-name ninjas, if we're being real here, Kakashi is doing the majority of the heavy lifting, as he not only steps in to save Iruka's life before the Deva path can take it, ensuring that both of Naruto's father figures are killed by Nagato, and maybe he should have honestly let him die because then Kakashi could have watched Naruto down the aisle, but whatever. But when it comes down to it, even though Choji and Chojuro are throwing in a couple of human boulder jutsus at the Deva path, it was really down to Kakashi and his mud walls and his Raikiris and his lightning beast tracking fangs and lightning shadow clones that even allowed for this fight to go on for the 5 minutes that it takes. And here's the thing, the fight begins as just Kakashi versus the Deva path, a fight that he is drastically unqualified for. However, as the fight progresses, it's revealed that the Asura path is also hanging around. And for those of you who don't remember, the Asura path is one of the more offensively focused paths of Pain, being able to mechanize its entire body, turning its arms into rocket launchers or giving itself a serrated blade tail. And even when it's initially revealed that Kakashi is even more over his head than he initially accounted for, he doesn't run because he knows that the paths of Pain are looking for Naruto. And therefore, with the deck 100% stacked against him in a battle against 2 of the more offensively focused paths of Pain, you know, the ones that Jiraiya was not able to defeat. Well, he does defeat the Asura path, but not the Deva path. Kakashi still gives it his all. And while his all is not enough, and Kakashi actually ends up dying in this fight, he literally ends up dying before retreating so that he can protect Naruto. And listen, if this sounds like Kakashi favoritism, it's not. He's just literally the most notorious non-fade ducker in all of Naruto. Now, that may not be a good thing on account of the fact that it mostly means he's constantly put into battles that he cannot win, but he never runs from those battles, and he deserves credit for that. But speaking of people that never run from battles, regardless of how bad they might look on paper, at our number 3 spot, we have Madara versus the 5 Kage. Now, here's the thing. Some of you are going to say, wait, hold up, Nick. Madara was absolutely going to win this fight from the get-go. These 5 Kage had literally no chance against any iteration of Madara. And your qualifications to make this list mandated that the people be put in a fight that they probably cannot win but still try to fight. And like, yeah, that's fair. However, the simple prospect of one person battling against all 5 current Kage simultaneously is kind of insane. And while Madara was stronger than the combined power of all 5 of these Kage, and all he had to do to eviscerate them was bust out his perfect Susanoo, which none of them could do anything about, the fact of the matter is, a battle simultaneously against all 5 current Kage is a fight that everybody at that moment in time in the Naruto universe would lose, except for Madara. And therefore, while he was put in a uniquely powerful situation to not duck this fade, he still didn't run from one of the most intimidating lineup of ninjas that the Shinobi Alliance could possibly put together for that moment. And while we all know it's not in Madara's DNA to ever run from a fight, if you ever literally try to take on all 5 of the Kage, and especially if you win while doing it, you're gonna make this list. Hold up, Neutron Jr. wants to tell you something. The mic doesn't pick it up, he's too quiet, but he's got some views. And I don't know if they should be spoken. They're kind of controversial. Thank God. Okay, cool. He didn't use the hard R. In Pupper, guys, come on. Get your mind out of the racist gutter. Anyways, speaking of controversial characters, coming up at number 2, we have Jiraiya versus Pain. Now, this fight right here is literally the epitome of not ducking a fade. Jiraiya literally flies off to the Hidden Rain, a enemy territory by himself, in order to investigate what's going on with the Akatsuki and the leaders of the Akatsuki. And he is pretty much immediately identified by not only Nagato, but also Konan. And while Konan isn't nearly as powerful as Nagato, she still is a member of the Akatsuki. And not the weakest member of the Akatsuki, not by a long shot. And thus Jiraiya is immediately placed into a battle against the second strongest member of the Akatsuki and a mid-ranker from the Akatsuki by himself. Oh yeah, and they're in their home city. And yet Jiraiya is not only able to counter all of the abilities of Konan, but also take on all 6 paths of pain simultaneously. And using the demonic toad confrontation chant, he's able to kill 3 of the paths of pain, leaving only 3 left. And if Jiraiya had known that he had to dispose of the corpses, those 3 paths of pain probably never would have been brought back to life. But they are, and Jiraiya's jumped by all 6 paths of pain simultaneously, which causes him to lose his arm. However, fortunately, after losing his arm, he's able to trap the animal path in a frog stomach dimension where he gets pierced through his other arm and his shoulder. So now Jiraiya is sitting in a separate pocket dimension that he is protected from all of the other paths of pain in, while the animal path slowly but surely dissolves in Toad's stomach acid. With a half-useful arm and a puncture wound in his shoulder, Jiraiya gets up, dusts himself off, and says, well, I guess I should probably get back into that fight against those 5 other paths of pain, so that he can collect as much information about them as possible to be passed back to Konoha. However, pretty much immediately after popping back into the fight, he's killed. Now in that moment when Jiraiya was in his Toad's stomach pocket dimension, he could have teleported back to Konoha or Mount Muabuko. He could have left the fight. He could have survived. However, in order to collect more information, he literally doesn't duck the fade. And he doesn't duck the fade so hard, it kills him. However, with the information he's able to gather over the course of this fight, he's able to give Naruto enough information to win in combat against Nagato. Something that he probably could have done if he was still alive, but you know, we need a death. And therefore, for taking on the impossible task of trying to 1v2 Nagato and Konan in their own backyard, Jiraiya gets our number 2 spot. But who gets our number 1 spot? Well, you've heard his name on this list already, and no, it's not Kakashi. Because coming up at number 1, we have Madara versus the Shinobi Alliance. Now, once again, a lot of you are going to say to me here, oh, but Madara never had any real threat of being injured in this battle against 20,000 Shinobi. And like, listen, maybe you're right. However, Madara, pretty much immediately after being brought back using Edo Tensei, bull rushes a group of 20,000 Shinobi that include all 5 of the Kage. As Inoki, Gaara, and Naruto all throw their hats in the ring in this battle against Madara to literally no avail. Now I know, like I said, Madara was really never threatened in this fight. In fact, it was mostly the Shinobi Alliance that was threatened in this fight, as they struggled to stop even one of Madara's meteors and had no answer for the second one. However, the imagery of one man rushing at an entire 5-nation army by himself is the biggest epitome of not ducking a fade I can literally think of in Naruto. Now, if you want to get real technical here, this number 1 spot could also go to the guy who led the charge against Madara. There is a random Hidden Stone Shinobi who's shown at the front of all of the other rushing Shinobi, and this is a random no-name Shinobi who is leading the charge of the entire Shinobi Alliance against a person who he knows literally as the god of Shinobi, the ghost of the Uchiha, a person that Inoki literally screams as they're all running, do not look directly in his eyes. I mean, Madara is the devil to these guys, and yet this random Hidden Stone Shinobi is the first person to run in to battle against him. So if you actually want to get super technical and talk about the odds being stacked against somebody, if you want to get really nitty-gritty with it, the person who takes the title as the number 1 non-fade ducker is random Hidden Stone Shinobi number 412. Because my god, where do you find the stones to run at Madara Uchiha? But I'm curious to hear from you guys. What moments from Naruto do you think of when you think of somebody not ducking a fade? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please for me. Like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. You know, if you'll excuse me, I got a sleepy puppy.